Bienvenidos and welcome back to Puro Pinche Gol, the place where we discuss all things USMNT y la selección mexicana. My name is Adrian. I'm joined once again by my co-host and Tocayo, Adrian. Adrian, what's going on, man? How are you today?
Hey, dude, I'm doing all right. Doing good. Thank you for asking. I hope you're doing good as well. I'm ready and excited to talk about this next Cocca's Cocca's potential call up for the coming games. And yeah, let's go ahead and do it, dude.
Yeah, exciting times. I don't necessarily think these next two games for Mexico are the biggest of opponents, but it'll be interesting to see, what
Yeah.
Diego Cocca brings to the table. As Adrian mentioned here, today's episode, we're going to be discussing the potential first list of players for the upcoming CONCACAF Nations League games here for Mexico. They're going to be playing Suriname, I think that's how you say it in English, on March 23rd, and they're going to be playing Jamaica on March 26th. And yeah, man. So before we get into it, how do our listeners find us, man?
Sure. If they want to see our pretty faces, they can find us on YouTube. So don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and turn on the notifications. If they are okay with just listening to our delightful voices, they can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any other podcast service they are a subscriber on.
Awesome. Well, let's get right into it, Adrian. After the World Cup, we kind of everybody that's a eltri fan was kind of expecting and hoping, for a clear out, right? Get all the dead wood, all the
Mm-hmm.
old farts that can no longer. It was pretty evident that can no longer compete at the level, and bring in some new guys, new blood, with keeping your kind of veterans, your 27, 28-year-old guys like El Machín or freaking Irving Lozano, but build around
Mm-hmm.
those guys and add a younger talent. For these two games, man, what do you think? Are we going to see like him giving a chance to younger players? Are we going to see that generational shift there?
Well, I mean, I think every single fan of El3, or at least the ones that, like myself, would like to see a change on the starting 11, will hope that Diego Cocca calls, the next generation, the next camada of jugadores are coming up, building up on their ligamx team or playing out there in Europe. But I think it was pretty clear from Diego Cocca's most recent press interviews that he's not necessarily interested in making that transition or that generational transition from leaving behind those vacas sagradas, as people will call it, the Hector Herreras, the Memo Ochoas, Hector Morenos, and the likes of them, Talavera, Cota, etc. Um, and he bluntly said, "Hey, you know what? El Tri is for everyone who's eligible." So that means that he's opening the doors for all ages, and he's also opening the door for those naturalizados. So a lot of people, a lot of reporters insisted on, what do you mean when you say El Tri is open for all eligible Mexicans, right? And he just kept on saying El Tri is for all Mexicans, la selección es de los mexicanos. So this can only go show or say that he's going to be looking at players that are either 27 or above, or even 30 and above, and we may not see players like that are Argentinian by birth, but have been playing in Mexico for a while now, and now they have hold a Mexican citizenship. So, as you were mentioning, as much as we wanted to see, the Deadwood get behind, I don't think that's going to happen, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see an increase of uh, naturalized players in the Mexican roster.
Yeah, I kind of think we talked about this probably a week or two ago when we were talking about Christian what is it, Bragarnik, right?
Bragarnik, yeah.
Yeah, and how he is the manager of the Ococa, the representative, and he has a lot of players in Liga MX that are either Mexican or naturalizados, or in the process of becoming naturalizados, nationalized
Hmm.
Mexican citizens. So yeah, I mean that can be a change here that we'll probably end up seeing. I mean, who do you recall on the World Cup squad who are the extranjeros? Was it just Funes Mori?
I believe so. I think that he was the only one who was a naturalized player, and that was the biggest thing. I think, if I'm not mistaken, since 2006, Mexico hadn't taken a naturalizado to our World Cup. I think the last one was Ciña. I do recall, the likes of Leandro Augusto playing for El Tri, Chaco Jimenez, Damian Alvarez, and many others. But hell, I think even Lucas Lobos played with El Tri, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he did.
Um, but but I think the only ones that I can recall of that have gone to a World Cup has been Gabriel Caballero in 2002 and Ciña in 2006.
Gotcha. So yeah, this might be a changing of the guard here, a changing of the how everybody sees Mexican soccer.
And I just want to say, I'm not opposed to naturalizados because I mean, if it makes a team play better, let's go ahead and do it, right? I'm not against it, but what I'm against it is having naturalizados who suck ass playing for the three. That's what I'm against.
Yeah, and just taking them because they're naturalizados or they had one good
Exactly.
decent season. Yeah,
Or
I
because
agree.
Bragarnik, or because Bragarnik wants to sell them at a higher price tag, and being part of a national team will actually increase your stock.
Right. Well, let's see what happens, man. Let's give our predictions for the first selected players here. Let's start with the goalkeepers. Who do you think is making the cut as Diego Cocca's? Give me your first string choice goalkeeper. Who do you think will start, and
Hmm.
who do you think are the backup two?
Hmm. So I think, and I really hope that Carlos Acevedo from Llantos Laguna starts now as the mainstay for the goalkeep for the goal for El Tri. I think it's pretty much set in stone, or it should be at least set in stone, and in Coca's mind that the next generational change needs to happen at the goalie
Mm-hmm.
position, and I hope that Carlos Acevedo starts his cycle with El Tri with Diego Cocca at the helm. So that would be my first choice. And as far as backups, I wouldn't be surprised if he calls, the likes of Rodolfo Cota or Alfredo Talavera, which I'm not a huge fan of, but unfortunately, if you take a look at the available keepers in Liga MX and outside Liga MX, it's very slim. Most of the Liga MX teams have uh, foreign goalkeepers, so your pool is very short. Hence why might see Rodolfo Cota or Alfredo Talavera showing up once again to take those spots. We may also see Guillermo Ochoa from Salernitana, but he's definitely not getting younger, and he's bench now, so he isn't even playing. Um, I would be surprised if, well, I don't know if I would be surprised, but I'll be kind of mad if he calls up Ochoa to be the first string keeper. I don't think I wouldn't be surprised, but I would definitely be pissed off.
Yeah, I think when you look at those keepers, Acevedo is far and ahead, probably the highest level and the best player that Mexico has right now, goalie wise.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
if you were to tell me between Ochoa, Talavera, Cota, Ochoa's probably better than those other two, but he just. I
Yeah.
mean, not saying Talavera's not. I was going to say he's a lot older, but Talavera's old as hell too. Um, so I mean, yeah, it's time for new blood there for sure. And Acevedo, man, he's been killing it the last couple seasons. I don't know
I
why he
know.
didn't go to the World Cup. That sucks.
Tata Mezquino. And,
Tata
it kind of
Mezquino.
sucks because Malagon, who is right now America's second string goalkeeper, is also a good young talent that was coming up from in Liga MX. But, I mean, we'll see right now his bench because Tan Ortiz prefers Oscar Jimenez as the first string keeper, and Malagon is just eating bench. So, that kind of sucks for him because this would have been his chance to at least be the second string goalkeeper for Mexico. But we'll see. Hopefully, Oscar Jimenez makes a mistake and Malagon takes a spot.
We'll see, man. All right, well, let's get into defenders, man. I think this is a position that's more heavily favored to positivity and to European status. There's a couple of good center backs playing in
Yeah.
Europe and good quality here. So who do you think, if it were you, if you were Diego Cocca, who would be calling up here for these friendlies for defenders?
Definitely. So if it was up to me, and being optimistic and wishful, I would definitely call up Gerardo Arteaga as a right back from Genk, Jesus Gallardo from Monterrey, who's a left back, and he's been killing it lately in Liga MX. He's been having assists, goals, and he has had a good display both offensively and defensively with Monterrey. I would definitely call Victor Guzman, who has also had a great streak of games with Monterrey. He got purchased from Cholos, and he's killing it right now, man. He has proven to be a good purchase for Monterrey.
The
I would
whole
definitely
Monterrey
call up Cesar
squad,
Montes.
the whole Monterrey squad's killing it, man. Just call them all up.
I mean, the ones that you can for sure. I will say Cesar Montes definitely from Espanyol. He has had a good run with Espanyol so far. Israel Reyes from America, who's also having consistent game time and showing good games out there. Omar Campos from Santos Laguna, who was kind of hot maybe a year, 2 years ago. Sorry, he's still showing some decent performances with Santos Laguna. So I wouldn't be surprised if he gets called up, and he should get called up. And lastly, Jesus Angulo and Kevin Alvarez. Kevin Alvarez from Pachuca as a left back. Needless to say, he was with Tata Martino, had a decent display last year, and he's been killing it so far this year. And I'll say Jesus Angulo just because Jesus Angulo it's a consentido from Diego Cocca. Diego Cocca used to have him in Atlas. Diego Cocca knows him, likes his playing style. Jesus Angulo is a safe choice as a center back, and he can also play as a left back, a defensive left back. He reminds me of Jorge Torres Nilo during his best years in Tigres. So I think that will be a wishful, optimistic defender pool. But I do want to mention two things. I wouldn't be surprised if Diego Cocca, instead of calling either Jesus Gallardo or Kevin Alvarez, he calls Luis Reyes from Atlas, because he knows Luis Reyes and he likes Luis Reyes. Luis Reyes is not bad. He's actually decent. The only caveat that I have is that he's kind of old. He's about 30. So I don't think he will be a good choice for this next cycle. But again, Diego Cocca's choice. He's one of his guys that he trusts. So I wouldn't discount, or I wouldn't necessarily disregard his call up. And lastly, Julian Araujo, who just recently moved to Barça B. He had some good runs with Tata Martino. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it to the World Cup. But I think this move to Barcelona might help him. I just need to see if he's playing for Barça B. I'm not too sure that's going to be good for him in terms of getting the attention from Coca, but we shall see. I mean, I think right now will be a good call up, as for publicity kind of things.
For publicity and to get him into the rhythm of more competitive matches, right? Because
Yeah,
I think training with, assuming the Ococa calls all these star players he has available to him, it'll be beneficial for Julian Araujo to play with these guys versus playing with the young guys at Barça B.
yeah.
Which I think that his whole situation there, not to really get in depth with it, but I think it's they can call him up to the A team whenever. They just can't register him because of finances. You know how sketchy Barcelona is with their finances.
Yeah, I know.
So I think that was their workaround. But so with all these defenders, man, solid list here.
Mhm.
Would you, assuming he calls up Cesar Montes, he calls up Victor Guzman, he calls up Gallardo, uh, who of those three starts as your two center backs? Do you start the both Monterrey? Well, technically, I guess they all know each other from playing in Monterrey. But do you start the two current Monterrey center backs, or do you start one with Montes, or do you start Reyes?
Honestly, I would start Montes and Cesar Angulo. Sorry, not Cesar Angulo, Jesus Angulo. Um, you know, they have both shown great displays during the last year and most recently in Liga MX and in La Liga with Espanyol. I think those will be the safest bet. At the same time, I wouldn't mind if we see Victor Guzman and Cesar Montes as the pair of center backs. I think he has a good pool of center backs right now who are young, who have some experience playing at the toppest highest level. Sorry, in Liga
Mm-hmm.
MX, and some even Cesar Montes playing in La Liga. So I think either way, if he goes with Israel Reyes or Victor Guzman, Cesar Montes, Cesar Angulo, I think that all of these are safe bets, man.
Yeah, they're all solid. I don't remember
Yeah,
Mexico having this many good center backs like for the long ass time. So
it's been a
this is
while.
good for the
It's been a
future
while.
for sure.
Yeah,
Um, all right, so moving on to the middle of the field, man. The midfielders, again, pretty solid squad. That of
yeah.
possible call ups. Who are you looking at here?
So I think this is where we're gonna see the most of, I guess, changes in the lineup, and I really hope that this happens. I think definitely he's gonna call up Orbelin Pineda from AEK Athens. He's been having a great season so far with assists and goals throughout the end of 2022 and the beginning of 2023. Definitely Edson Alvarez, who I think he's gonna become the next captain and the next estandarte for eltri. Eric Gutierrez, who has had a decent run with PSV so far, at ending 2022 on a high note and having a strong start of 2023. Luis Chavez definitely has to be on the list. Here's where I have my doubts. Either he calls up Charlie Rodriguez, which I don't know why they keep calling him up. He hasn't had a good or decent season with Cruz Azul since he moved there, and his 2022 World Cup was a disaster. So I don't know if he's gonna call him or he's gonna call HH, who he's been in terrible form for the last year and a half. Uh, but then again, I wouldn't be surprised if he calls HH. We have Victor Guzman, who has had a decent display with Chivas so far and a great 2022 with Pachuca. Aldo Rocha, who he's a center defensive midfielder for Atlas. I think the only reason why Cocca will call him up is because he knows Aldo Rocha. He was a key player for him during his bicampeonato with Atlas, so it would just make sense. Here's and the last two that I want to mention would be huge surprises. The first one would be Alfonso Gonzalez from Monterrey, who has been having a 2023, an enormous 2023, a fantastic 2023 so far. He had a decent 2022 with Monterrey, so I think it's just about time that he gets a call up with Mexico. I wouldn't be mad if he gets called up. And then the last one is either Chofis Lopez, who I'm really surprised because he was sucking ass with Chivas in 2020, 2021. Then he goes to San Jose Earthquake, picks up his career, moves to Pachuca, and now he's a fucking killer. So uh, we'll see. I mean, he's been having a good display. It's either Chofi Lopez or Eric Sanchez. I think it's a safe bet with either or. Um, I wouldn't mind if he takes Aldo Rocha out and has Eric Sanchez and Chofi Lopez. But then again, I think he's just going to call up a few key players he used to have in Atlas.
So based off, we've seen Diego Cocca with Tigres and before that with Atlas and his other teams. He usually likes to
Mm-hmm.
play 4-3-3.
Yes.
How with these three, who would you choose as your starting three midfielders from these options?
This is a tough choice, but I would definitely have Edson Alvarez. I would have Victor Guzman and either Luis Chavez or Eric Gutierrez. I think that will be a solid midfield for sure.
Okay, cool. All right, man. So the most exciting piece that everybody wants to see, who's going to be scoring the goals. Who do you think he's calling up here? Remember, he likes to play with three forwards, so one kind of center and then two on the wing. So who's he calling in here?
So I think it's obvious that he's going to call Chucky Lozano from Napoli as a right wing. He's going to call, and he should be calling Bebote Jimenez from Feyenoord as a striker. He definitely needs to call up Henry Martin from America, who has been having a stellar 2023. And then lastly, I think he has multiple options here. He can go with either Factor Linus from Tigres, who has had a tough 2022 and not so hot 2023.
Right.
Uriel Antuna from Cruz Azul. And here are the two things that I think will be controversial: either Julio Furch from Atlas or Rogelio Funes Muerto from Monterrey. Um, the last two are strikers. I think striker wise, he is complete. I don't think he has to have, I wouldn't mind if he has three strikers, but I think because he has Orbelin Pineda, who can play also as a winger. He has,
Mm-hmm.
I believe, also La Chofis or Alfonso Gonzalez can play as wingers as well if needed. They're not the best at it, but he has coverage on that specific end with the midfielders. So I don't think he needs to call another winger per se. But the fact is that Mexico needs strikers, and Mexico has two strikers right now that are hot on their teams. So I wouldn't mind if he calls up, man, Julio Furch or Rogelio Funes Mori. And the reason why I say these two names is because Diego Cocca likes to play with a striker that is physical, that can retain the ball and open up spaces for the wingers. So
Hmm.
they can grab the ball, carry on defenders, and then make the cross. So the striker and the box to box midfielder can come in and either take a header or make a volley.
Dope.
So those will
Uh,
be my options.
yeah, from those four strikers, Santi Jimenez, Henry Martin, Furch, and Funes Mori. You've mentioned he likes to play with a strong forward that can hold the ball while his midfield comes up and play 1-2 off him. Um, Someone like Funes Mori who's pretty good at that.
Yeah.
Henry Martin and Leote Jimenez are kind of not as physical, but they're faster, they're younger, they're on fire right now. Um,
Hmm.
for these two matches, who would you rather see? Would you rather see somebody that we know how they play, like Funes Mori, or give the option to someone like Jimenez, who maybe should have been at the World Cup?
I think he should definitely start with Chucky Lozano. I will give the opportunity to Bebote Jimenez, and my opinion is biased because I like Bebote Jimenez, but I think these two games will be a good challenge for him to prove that he is the hair of that specific position in eltri. But either whether if he starts with Bebote or Henry Martin, I'm not against any of those options. Then again, if he calls Julio Furch, I think he will start with Julio Furch.
All right. Well, there you go. Exciting times. We're getting closer to the first match in March. So, and then I think they released that they're playing the United States in April. So it's going to be like busy month and a half there.
Yeah.
Be interesting to see
Mhm.
how El Tri stacks up. And I since these are Conca Nations League Cups games, I think European teams allow their players to leave for
Yeah.
those games. Not
So,
necessarily it's going to happen for the USA game. I don't think there'll probably be a
mhm.
lot of ligamx / MLS players
And
there.
MLS. Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
going to be a clash of Liga MX and MLS. And also interesting about these two games, even though they're not the strongest opposition, right? Suriname and Jamaica. These two games are important because if he's able to go through on Nations League, that will give him an opportunity to join Copa America in 2024. So
Is that
these
is that
games.
the
What?
is that what was in his contract or what's going on? They said if he
No,
wins.
so I think these nation leagues actually the prize will be qualifying into the next Copa America. So that's why they're important. Like Mexico, United States, and Canada, while they might be hosting some of the games for Copa America, or at least I guess the Copa America is going to be playing in the United States, right? They don't have a free pass to Copa America like they thought they would. So they need to get qualified through Nations League.
Oh wow, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Hmm. That makes it.
So
Yeah, that
uh,
raised the stakes.
mhm, exactly, and that's the whole reason why they give him that. They were trying to add that clause in his contract saying like, hey, if you don't qualify for the Copa America, if you don't win Nations League, if you don't win the Gold Cup, you're out, my guy. But
Yeah.
yeah, we'll see. He definitely has
As
pressure on.
yeah, as he should have. Um, well, all
Yeah,
right, man.
definitely.
Well, thanks for breaking that down for us. It's going to be interesting to see who he calls up for sure. He better, man, he better not end up calling all these old farts or the same guys we've always seen. Um, but yeah,
He better
Adrian,
not.
before we finish up this episode, man, where can our listeners find us?
Again, they can find us on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and turn on notifications. They can also find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any other podcast subscription they may have. And they can also find us at Puro Pinche Gol on Instagram and Twitter. We post some stuff every now and then.
Sounds good. Yeah, follow us on your preferred social media platform. And Adrian, again, pleasure being here with you, man. See you in the next one.
Always a pleasure. Take it easy, man. Always a pleasure.
See you, brother.